we are back with another week of Touchdown, coming at you live from Schwadorf, Austria. As always, I'm your host, Joel Turpin, here with my co-hosts, Martin Marhold and David Asselin.
Hello.
This week, we're going to try doing things just a little differently. Instead of talking about the previous week's games, we're going to talk a little bit about the second half of the season upcoming and see where we think things stand at this point. So we'll start off by talking about the AFC, and in particular the AFC East, where the Patriots are rolling full 2 games ahead of any of their competition at 7-2, with the Jets at 5-4 being their only sort of competition at this point.
Nemesis, we can say.
What do we think here?
Well, my take is that the New England Patriots, again, like in so many previous years, they're really gaining a lot from their division being one of the weakest. Not overall, probably, but Buffalo is pretty much out of the game already. Miami is
we had our eyes on Buffalo at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I actually
Miami
had
as well.
But, Miami started strong, then a little bit in the slump. Then now they are handing the first win to Tampa Bay, who are really thankful, I guess. And the Jets are also not as strong as you could have expected, should have expected.
Although they did beat New England
maybe we
back.
expected and exactly where they are. So what actually surprises me a little bit is the record that New England is going with at 7-2. That's not something I would have expected, considering the problems they have at receiver positions.
Yeah, but you got Gronk is back. Dobson seemed to show up the last couple of weeks. He's now playing ball, getting paid what he's getting paid for. And Belichick always finds a way. You can love him or hate him, but Bill Belichick will always seem to find a way.
So we all say the Patriots in the East, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's no way around it.
Yes. Unless something happens as an injury to,
Brady.
Brady
goes
pretty
down.
much Brady.
Yeah. That would be the one.
Catches
Yeah.
pneumonia or something, is out for the season, but it's the Patriots to lose.
Okay, up next, the AFC North, which until quite recently looked like a cakewalk for the Bengals. They had the largest lead of anyone in any division and were on a roll. Now they've dropped a couple.
Well, they've lost 2 tough overtime games.
Yeah, but Baltimore's won a game, and
Ravens.
Is it looking like there's going to be a bit of a comeback here? The Super Bowl champs making it exciting?
I actually don't think so. I'd have expected the Bengals to win the division just before the season. The Ravens winning a wild card. They're only 1 game behind the second wild card, which is up for grabs actually in the AFC. So they still could do it. I don't see Cleveland going on strong. So I still think that the Bengals will win the division. I think that the Baltimore Ravens will probably be second. If it's good enough for a wild card, I don't know.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with Martin on this. I think it's the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's the Bengals to lose. They've got a bye week coming up quite soon, and really the only team that scares you on the rest of their schedule is the Colts, although they do, of course, play Baltimore head-to-head one more time. So if it comes down to an end-of-the-season kind of thing, it could be exciting that last week of the season. But, I think they've got enough of a lead still and still are the more complete team. So
Dalton has took it up a notch, and he's got a good core of receivers.
He's just so up and down.
Yeah, he's so up and down.
The AFC South, where it sure looks even more like it's a one-team race, with the Colts, despite a very strange loss to St. Louis last week.
Very strange, and at home.
Yeah, but still,
Indianapolis.
Being their closest competition being Tennessee, who just lost Jake Locker for the season, it looks like.
Is it
season ending is what I'm hearing, yeah. So.
Yeah, okay. I think really that the season-ending injury for Jake Locker has pretty much been the death blow for Tennessee. I don't see their backup picking it up at that point. Indianapolis, on the other hand, yes, they had a devastating loss against St. Louis at home, but I don't think they're going to do this very often.
What was that all about?
Well, I don't know. Maybe
luck-
maybe some kind of
luck.
underestimating the opponent, thinking like this would be a cakewalk, which it wasn't obviously. Then a few stellar plays by Devon Austin.
Yes.
Um,
A little cocky, if you ask me, for a rookie, but
Still, he managed to get it in, and I think they found him really soon in the game. They found him in a position where they didn't expect to be, and that's why it
they got
went
behind
so
early.
bad. They got behind early, and I think they didn't have a game plan for what they're gonna do if they're behind because they didn't expect it to happen. On the other hand, I don't see anybody in the AFC South to be able to match up with the Colts. So I think it's going to be Colts easily, and I don't think anybody else is going to pick up a wild card there.
They've had such a tough schedule this season. It's
Colts.
easy. Yeah, the Colts have had a real. I mean, they've played Seattle, they've played Denver, they've played San Francisco. They've run the gauntlet, and they won basically all of those games.
And then
so it's not a surprise. I mean, in some ways it is a surprise, but in other ways it's not a big surprise to see a team like that kind of let down a little bit. You play, and I think
on any given Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's what we're looking at there. Okay, saving the best for last, the AFC West. The Chiefs and the Broncos about to clash this week.
Start with this one.
Sure. I still think with barring the ever-present specter of a Peyton Manning injury,
Yes.
I still think it's probably going to be the Broncos when it all comes out, and that's not denigrating the Chiefs in any way, but their schedule upcoming is rough, to say the least.
Got the toughest schedule.
They've got they've got to play the Chargers a couple of times, who are no slouches this season. They've got the Colts at Indianapolis. No, I'm sorry, at Arrowhead, but they've got to play the Broncos home and away in the next 3 weeks. The dangerous Redskins, a game against divisional rival Oakland. None of those are going to be easy for the Chiefs, I think, upcoming. So if Denver pulls away and wins it by a game or two, it's not going to be a big surprise.
I'd go absolutely with you there, yes. I really think that even though the Chiefs have the better record, I think that the Broncos are the better team in the division, and we're going to see this week how it all works out. I'm not 100% sure that this is going to be a Denver game. This could go either way. It really depends. I think if it's a high-scoring game, kind of obvious. If it's a high-scoring game, I think it's going to be the Broncos will win it. If the Chiefs manage to contain Manning and his passing offense, if they manage to keep them below, let's say, 300 passing yards, it could also go the Chiefs' way. And in this case, they pick up a 2-game lead, and this could very well hand them the division up at this early time, actually.
I see the Chiefs pulling this one out this week, even away.
Well, how about for the season, though?
For the season, I see the Chiefs taking the division. They have a more balanced football team. They have a much better defense than the Broncos. The Broncos have shown they are vulnerable. Yeah, they put up 55 points, but the other team's putting up 42 points. You're not going to go into Super Bowl like the Patriots of years gone by. You're not going to go just because you can throw for 400 yards every game. Doesn't mean you're going to win that when you face a stellar Andy Reid defense. And the Chiefs have shown they have a strong defense, one of the strongest defenses in football right now. Probably second to the Seattle.
Probably does more scores than the offense anyway, so they're going to need it.
And the Chiefs always have kept it close in every game. They've always managed to squeak out a win. And it's all accredited to their quarterback, former 49er, and I think the coaching staff of Andy Reid.
Makes a big difference. Okay, moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the NFC, and we'll start with the NFC the NFC East. Where we've got. I'm gonna say let's leave the conversation down to the Cowboys and the Eagles at this point, because although theoretically the Giants or Redskins could roll in
at 7 and 9 and take the division.
It's just too sad to contemplate at the moment. I guess if anybody really has a strong feeling about one of those teams, but for me it's the Cowboys or the Eagles.
I see the Eagles pulling this one out. I see the Eagles winning it. They played some good ball the last couple of weeks. They beat Green Bay without Rodgers this past week, which is.
I actually think that the Giants are still pretty much in the game.
Giants.
Yes, because they play Philly at home this week. If they win it, they're just one game behind, and maybe at some point we're gonna see last year's Giants again. which is not. I wouldn't rule this out because they still have a good team. They didn't change so much, so I don't see a real reason why they are playing the way they do. If they win this week against Philly, they might find out that they actually still have a chance to win the division, and they could pick it up.
They could
from there.
put a little life in them if they go into Philadelphia and win. But Eli is just not having a season. He's having a season he'd like to forget. I think he's leading the league in interceptions at the moment.
Yes, but I think this is mainly a mind thing. And when you see that you can win, preferably a close one against Philly, you probably find out that actually you're not the team that loses every second game just because of stupid mistakes. So when you just stop making those stupid mistakes, you probably win 5 more, and then you're 8-8, which is probably good enough to win the division.
Okay, and then up next, let's talk a little bit. Going to jump around to the NFC West. What the heck? The Seahawks and the 49ers have been duking it out atop this for the last season and this as well. Only this time now it looks like the Seahawks have really taken the upper hand because although they both played close this last weekend, the Seahawks managed to find a way to pull it out. The Niners did not.
Yeah, I see the Seahawks winning this division not easily, but there's a lot going to be seen in the second half of the season. So when I always say the football season starts sometime at the end of October. Seahawks pull it out unless somebody gets injured or something like this. It's the Seahawks to lose.
Actually, it's quite funny that nobody would have expected it, I think, at this point in the season, but Seattle has the biggest lead of any division now. They have a 3-game lead over San Francisco. Because of the devastating loss of San Francisco, and if San Francisco is not going to be able to pick up their passing attack, which is 32nd in the league now, on the other hand, they have the number 1 running attack, which is kind of funny. I don't think this happens very often. But unless they can pick it up from there, I don't see how Seattle would lose this division to San Francisco. Even if San Francisco beats them at home in December,
sure,
they're still 2 games ahead, and I don't see where Seattle would lose those 2 games.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a 2.5 game lead because the Seahawks have a bye week coming up. But it's 3 in the win column. So yeah, I also think that the Seahawks will likely end up atop the leaderboard when it's all said and done. I think the Niners will find a way to get into the wild card slots.
Yes, for sure.
But,
right. Sure.
Well, I don't know about for sure on anything this season right now.
True.
But I think
one,
they'll pull it out. Really, what you need to see from them is a little better play from Colin Kaepernick. He's just.
Yeah, it's for me. It's not only Kaepernick's play, who was awful by the way on Sunday. It was not very
he seems
good.
to get nervous. When he gets a little under pressure, he seems to just start
they
falling
got
apart.
especially when you saw the game that they usually didn't blitz him, so they came with a 4-man rush, and still he was under pressure all game long. I mean, Carolina probably has one of the best front 7 you have in the whole league. Still, you gotta be managed to pick up a 4-man rush at least half of the time. Mm-hmm. And if this is not possible because your O-line play is not good enough, then you gotta find a way via the game plan. And that's where actually I think the most concern for Niner fan is that the coaching seems to be in trouble offensive wise.
Okay, I can agree with that.
NFC North. This one's a little more complicated, huh? We've got still 3 teams all within 1 game of each other. The Lions have a little bit of breathing room after last weekend. Of course, struggles with injuries have affected this division as much as any other. But what do we see going forward? Is Detroit going to be able to hold on?
I saw Detroit looked good going to Chicago this past week, and they played a tough game and on a very important game, playing a division rival. And they proved a point, and Stratford played an excellent game. I think it was he's up for the offensive player of the week. The defense, we know the bad boy defense. Detroit has a very strong line against the run. Chicago with Cutler, the issues with Cutler right now, and you got the Packers and Rodgers is out probably till the end of the season, at least 3 or 4 weeks with his collarbone. I think it's Detroit's to lose.
I would agree with you
Yes.
here. It's actually that the Lions are the only team in the whole division that isn't out of the starting quarterback.
Yes.
They got Megatron, who just
He seems to be
set a
having a
new
stellar
franchise
year,
record for
too.
receiving touchdowns. I think it's Detroit's to lose, as you just said, and I actually think they're the completest team. They got a very good passing offense. They got a very good defense. They got a mean defense.
They got a very mean
And
defense, yes.
If Sue manages to stay out of trouble for like one game, then they are also two stupid penalties short of losing it. And they can, like the game against Dallas, they can find ways to win it in the end if it's necessary, and that's what makes a great football team. I think the Packers simply are not a playoff team, not a playoff caliber team without Rodgers.
Well, they're also injury riddled. They have lots of
The
problems.
Bears are getting into trouble with their passing defense right now since Tillman is out again. Briggs is out. He's also quite important in their scheme for as a linebacker, but also for coverage for the short zones. So I think the one team in this division that has least troubles with injuries are the Lions, and that's why they're gonna pick it up.
Yeah, I guess what for me is really interesting is when you look at the schedule, they've got such easy schedules. It seems like maybe it didn't look that way at the start of the year, but the Lions upcoming, they got the Steelers.
Well, it's
the
based
Bucks.
on the previous year.
Sure, but so many teams are weaker than we thought before
Yeah.
the season started. I mean, nobody knew the Bucks were going to be that bad. Nobody knew the Steelers were going to be so mediocre. Eagles, Ravens, Giants, Vikings. These are a lot of teams that just haven't impressed this year. The Bears, it's the same. Other than playing each other, they all look like really winnable games, and yet you could see maybe none of these teams making the wild card because you still got San Francisco and Carolina lurking around in the other division. So it's going to be a dogfight coming down the stretch here. I think it's going to be all about the head-to-head matchups, really.
Yeah, I think it's sort of. I think we can sit here in probably in 2 weeks and probably almost predict who will be going to the Super Bowl.
Maybe.
Or
Well, there's
maybe
kind of often there's also
weeks.
surprises. We have
Yeah.
seen the number 6 seed
yeah.
several times in the past years in the Super Bowl. So even if you know what the records are, you still
Well,
have
yeah,
the
just
best
basing everything
idea.
on these injuries we're seeing this year. We
Yeah.
were talking about this before. That the more regulations they put out there to protect the quarterback, the more the quarterbacks seem to be getting hurt.
Okay, so we have one more division to talk about, the NFC South, where what seemed to be a runaway division with New Orleans getting a good strong start has turned into another little dog fight as Carolina is stepping up their game and making things interesting.
Yeah, we talked about before already. Carolina has a really, really strong defense. Cam Newton seemed to be, underperforming, let's say, at the beginning of the season, and it's getting better. Last week, his numbers against San Francisco, they were not that good, but you got to keep in mind that San Francisco has a really, really good defense, so I wouldn't be concerned about that there. And for me, in the end, it's going to be the more complete team. I think New Orleans has the better offense, quite obviously, with Drew Brees.
Sure.
On the other hand, Carolina has the better defense, so you're matching up actually the weaker part of the team, like the New Orleans defense against the Carolina offense there, and there I'd say that New Orleans has the nudge. They will be a little bit better than Carolina, not by much, but I think they're not gonna give away that one game lead they currently have until the end of the season.
New Orleans lost a tough game in Foxborough, but Patriots, a very underrated defense in the NFL. They put a lot of pressure. It was a battle of the lines at the beginning, where before the big guy was hurt, Wilfork was hurt. But I think New Orleans is the more complete team. I have to agree with Martin on this, but I wouldn't touch this. I wouldn't bet against this division for all the tea in China, because Carolina started out very weak, and we're going, what's on with Cam Newton? All of a sudden, they've turned it up a notch. They're in fifth gear, blazing.
Well, they've got to play the Patriots, of course, upcoming, and then they've got a couple of gimmies, or at least easier games with the Dolphins and the Bucks. But really, 3 out of the final 4 games, or 2 out of the final 4 games, they're playing head-to-head. So it's another division where put your money where your mouth is, and they can step up and earn their right to the title and don't have to rely on anybody else. So for both teams, it's going to be an exciting run to the finish line. Okay, we're going to take a short little break here, and when we come back, we'll breeze through a couple of the games that are upcoming this week. Okay, we are back, and this week we're going to just cut it a little short and just pick and choose some of the more interesting matchups that are coming up. Let's see. Oh, the late game. Just a little game I like to call, for all the marbles in the AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs playing the Denver Donkeys in in Mile High. I'm sorry, the Broncos.
Probably mispronounced it.
You should probably start off with this one, Joel. So you're probably more.
Sure. Kansas City. I wish we played the Broncos at home first, because I see the Broncos being really hard to beat in Mile High. I would have a hard time calling this one for the Chiefs. To be honest, even if Peyton Manning had been hurt enough to be out this week, the Chiefs have been on such a roll and have found a way to win, and that just always, there's always a point where that just stops. And this game from the get-go, from the start of the schedule, has looked like, okay, yeah, they may win this and they may win that, but pretty soon they got to pay the piper and they got to go into Denver and play what may be the best team in the AFC. And I think they'll make it close, probably, but when it's all said and done, I think Denver's going to win this one, maybe not easily, but solidly. 7 points, 10 points, a solid home win. Love to be wrong, but I think Denver's going to take this one, and we can start gearing up for the return match
Manning's
in 2 weeks.
gimping a little bit, isn't he?
He is.
He's got a sore ankle. There are questions on the line right now. If you've noticed in the last couple of weeks with the Broncos, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Chiefs actually take this one in a very close game. It might be down to who has the last possession of the ball, but I am not really. Not a big Chiefs fan, Joel, but since I'm here in Chief country, I've got to give a lot of credit to Andy Reid and that coaching staff, and they seem to win. They pulled out the close ones, and their defense seems to stand up when the time comes. And every time you watch the Broncos, when they play a team that's got a good defense, they struggle putting a lot of points on the board. I mean, Manning's only throwing 2 touchdown passes and not 17 a game. Yeah. But when they really have to, when these great offensive teams play these tougher defenses, they always seem to really struggle. And I think the Chiefs are right up there with the Panthers and the Seahawks of having a solid defensive team.
If they manage to keep them with a somewhat low number of points, then they stand a chance in the end. But I think that the Broncos are going to take this. But I agree with you, Joel. I think it's going to be a close game, at least for most of it. Depending on if we see the Broncos magic when they come out after halftime, because they usually they struggled a bit in the first half in quite a few games, but they seem to be able to make the perfect adjustments at halftime every time, and we'll find out in the third quarter, I think, who's going to win this game.
Yeah, exactly. The next game, the final game we're going to talk about this week, New England at Carolina, a Monday night matchup that may not have looked like much a little earlier in the season, but suddenly looks like a real good one. Martin?
Yes, and starting off with a surprise pick, probably, I would pick Carolina here. They really showed a stellar defense against the 49ers last week. They have been improving all the year, and I think they're kind of a ride now. They really know how to win games. They just will destroy the Patriots' passing offense, I think.
Well, that's a good point. If they can keep Brady on the bench and they keep their offense and keep Cam Newton's offense out there, they have a chance to win it. Patriots fan, naturally, I'm not just being fair weather, but I'm going to go with the Patriots on this one because But although Cam Newton started off slow, he seems to be settling in, and the Carolina defense, which you touched in on. But I think the New England offense will outshine the Patriots defense because the receivers have seemed to finally get this hieroglyphic playbook from Belichick that it always takes players 2 years to learn. And you saw this with Dobson, and Gronk is back and on fire, and Brady seems to now quit his whining right now, and he seems to actually be enjoying the game again. The Patriots going to win this one, but it's going to be a very close game. It's going to be a very close game.
I think I'm going to go with Martin on this one. I've been sitting here thinking, no, this is one that's it's a tough call, obviously.
But it's a Monday night game.
It's a Monday night game.
That's where the Patriots seem to have the experience.
Yeah, and I'd like to give the nod. If it was in New England, it would go the other way, definitely for me. But I don't know. Maybe it's just those sweaters that Tom's been wearing to those post-game conferences. So it's like the Cosby's. They're amazing. They're just
something his wife,
some blazers.
He's something like this.
He's starting some new sort of retro clothing line, I think, or something. Maybe that's where his head's been all season, and that's why he can't hit the open guy sometimes. I don't know, but okay. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this week's Touchdown Edition. We'll be back at you next week with one of our more regular formats, talking about the games that we've watched this week and the games that are upcoming next and all that fun stuff. So we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.